Good morning. I'm here to announce that the United States Attorney's Office has unsealed criminal charges against Michael Ozzie Myers, a political consultant and former United States Congressman in Philadelphia. Myers has been charged with 8 counts. 1 count of conspiracy to deprive individuals of their civil rights, 1 count of conspiring to illegally vote in a federal election, 2 counts of violating the Travel Act, which forbids the use of any facility in interstate commerce, here a cell phone, with the intent to promote certain illegal activity, here bribery. 2 counts of falsification of records, 1 count of voting more than once in a federal election, and 1 count of obstruction of justice. This prosecution has been a team effort, and before I get into a more detailed description of the allegations, there are several people that I want to recognize and thank. First, from the FBI, Mike Driscoll, who was a special agent in charge of the FBI's Philadelphia field office, as well as Special Agent Carmen DeMario, who was a lead investigator on the case. I also want to thank the Public Integrity Section at the U.S. Department of Justice in Washington, and specifically Section Chief Corey Amundson, Deputy Chief John Keller, and Director of the Election Crimes Branch of the section, Richard Pilger. I also want to thank Assistant U.S. Attorney Richard Barrett, who is the chief of our Public Corruption Unit at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and Assistant U.S. Attorney Eric Gibson, who is the lead prosecutor on the case. And finally, I would like to thank the Pennsylvania State Police for their assistance in this investigation. Our election system relies on the honesty and the integrity of those involved in the electoral process. If election officials are corrupt, the system is corrupt, which creates opportunities for election fraud and the counting of fake votes. According to the indictment, the election system in Philadelphia's 39th Ward, 36th Division was corrupted by Ozzie Myers and his co-conspirators. Myers held himself out as an effective and successful political operative, capable of ensuring his clients' electoral success. Myers allegedly did so by working in a number of ways to exert influence and control over Philadelphia's 39th Ward. According to the indictment, Myers distributed cash payments and supported family, friends, and allies for elective office in the 39th Ward, and installed ward leaders, judges of elections, and Democratic state committee persons. Through this alleged scheme, Myers advanced his political and financial interests through fraudulent and corrupt means by engaging in a ballot stuffing scheme that enabled him to take credit for the electoral success of his Philadelphia-based clients and his preferred candidates. This secured his standing in local party politics and enabled him to control and influence the 39th Ward and influence the distribution of local patronage jobs. I would like to take you to the 39th Ward, 36th Division to show you where the action occurred. I have 2 photographs that I'm going to share at this point to provide some context about the polling place involved. First, there's a picture of the outside of the polling place, which is adjacent to a bocce ball court. Here's that photo. Next, let's go inside the polling place with a picture of the actual machines on an election day. And here is that photo. Now, as charged, Myers would solicit monetary payments from his clients in the form of cash or checks as consulting fees. Myers would then take portions of these funds and make payments to election board officials in return for the officials tampering with the election results. Specifically, Myers gave directions and paid money to Dominic J. DeMuro, judge of elections in Philadelphia's 39th Ward, who would illegally add votes to certain Democratic candidates on the primary ballots in 2014, 2015, and 2016. These candidates were individuals running for judicial office whose campaigns had hired Myers, as well as other candidates for various federal, state, and local elective offices who were preferred by Myers for a variety of reasons. After receiving payments ranging from between $300 and $5,000 per election from Myers, DeMuro would add fraudulent votes, also known as ringing up votes, for Myers' clients and preferred candidates, thereby diluting the ballots cast by actual voters. Myers would relay instructions to DeMuro over a cell phone regarding which candidates DeMuro should ring up on Election Day. DeMuro would add these fraudulent votes by literally standing in the voting booth and voting over and over as fast as he could when he thought the coast was clear. DeMuro would then falsely certify the voting machine results from the 39th Ward, 36th Division as valid. Myers is also charged with obstruction of justice for instructing DeMuro about how best to avoid detection concerning these fraudulent votes. Myers allegedly paid DeMuro at specific times to avoid campaign financial reporting requirements and also told DeMuro to lie about the reasons for these payments if he were ever asked. These fraudulent votes added up. In May 2014, DeMuro stuffed the ballot box with 27 fraudulent ballots during the primary election. In May 2015, DeMuro padded the ballot box with 40 fraudulent votes. In 2016, it was 46 fraudulent votes. These numbers may sound relatively small, but they made up a significant percentage of the total votes cast at that particular polling place. In 2014, 118 total ballots were reported in the 36th Division of the 39th Ward. That means that the fraudulent votes accounted for over 22% of the total voting in that division in 2014. In 2015, the fraud accounted for over 15% of the votes in the division. In 2016, the fraud accounted for over 17% of the votes. And when it comes to these local elections, these numbers are not insignificant. Local elections can often be decided by hundreds or even dozens of votes. These fraudulent votes had the potential to alter a local election's final result. But at the end of the day, the specific number of votes doesn't really matter. Voting is the cornerstone of our democracy. And if only one vote has been illegally rung up or fraudulently stuffed into a ballot box, the integrity of that entire election is undermined. As President Lincoln once put it, elections belong to the people, to each and every citizen who has the right to cast one vote. Elections do not and will never belong to corrupt election officials who attempt to buy elections. Votes are not things to be purchased, and democracy is not for sale. DeMuro, who was charged earlier this year by my office, has accepted responsibility for his crimes by pleading guilty to all charges and is currently awaiting sentencing. And this election fraud investigation is ongoing. My office is taking every possible step that we can to ensure the integrity of every election in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania in 2020. We will work day and night to make sure that every citizen's civil rights are protected, whether that is through access to the polls or making sure that every legitimate vote counts. If you tamper with anyone's right to vote or try to fix the results of an election in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, my office will hold you accountable. If you're a political consultant or an election official, or you work with the polling places in any way, I urge you to do your job honestly and faithfully. That is what the public deserves. That is what democracy demands. And that is what my office will enforce. Thank you.